How's everybody doing today? Drop a little hello in the chat. We're just gonna go ahead and set up the live stream, and then we're gonna get started in just a minute. We have Q&A at the end. We're gonna be running a poll. We got all sorts of stuff we're gonna be getting into today. Say hello, where you from, what you're most excited about. We're really pumped to share with everything with you guys today. Again, just one more minute. We're going to let everybody join. Usually people come in a few minutes afterwards. So just give us one more minute and we'll get started probably at 5 past. Again, guys, we have a Q&A. So if there are questions that you want answered throughout the presentation, throw them in there. There's an option to upvote questions as well. So as we're going through this stuff, if you see a question you really want answered, feel free to upvote it at the end. I do want to tease this out at the end. We're going to be sharing some features we have in our roadmap for 2021. That's the year we're in today. And we would love for everybody to sort of vote on the features, the ones you're most excited about, because that'll help us prioritize which features are most relevant and helpful to you. Okay, we are at 5 past. Let's go ahead and get started. So thank you so much, everybody, today. Today, we're going to be talking a lot. We're going to be going over a lot of different cool stuff. So we've been in the lab, I guess you could say, here at Frase, and we're building out some really, really cool features. Stuff that if you're used to using Frase as a Frase content customer, you're going to be pretty pumped because we're really excited about the idea of where the product is going and how we're evolving. And so today, we're going to be looking at features that actually already exist in your Frase account. So this isn't stuff that you have to go ahead and purchase to get extra features. There are some enterprise features that will be developed over the next few months that may not be in sort of like everybody's plan, but we wanted to show you today what is immediately accessible to you and what you have available to you as a Frase user. So at the end, we'll show you kind of what you need to get set up and everything that you need to basically take this presentation and say, okay, how do I get the most value from all this stuff? So today's agenda, we're going to talk about how COVID-19 has changed growth forever. There's a lot of crazy stuff that's going on in the world today, as you all are very, very aware. We're going to touch on some of those trends. We're going to touch on why we built Frase Answers, basically what the hypothesis is. I know most folks who are probably on here are probably used to Frase as a content tool, but we have been very aggressively building towards what we believe is the future of on-page experience and brand experiences. We're really excited to show you that. We'll show you what it does, why you should care. We'll show you how to get the most out of your assistants. Again, we'll talk about the product roadmap for 2021, and then we'll talk about how to get started with Frase Answers. All right, let's go. So, all right, so today's presenters, my name is Bill King. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Frase, and I have with me the man, the myth, the legend, Colby Ring, who is our Director of Sales. A lot of you guys probably haven't met Colby yet, so I'll let him introduce himself real quick.
Thank you very much, Bill. That's too kind. And again, thanks everybody for joining us today. So I joined Frase in December. I spent 8.5 years at HubSpot previously, and then also at Drip. So I've worked with hundreds of SMBs and mid-market businesses and really helping them grow their businesses, primarily through digital channels, whether leveraging their website, content. Yeah, I'm very, very excited to share with you what we all have planned today.
Yeah, Colby's an expert in AI and technology to help you drive more engagement, more conversions, more sales on your site. So for those of you who are used to using Frase and you're like, hey, this is great for driving traffic, but maybe I'm not getting as much ROI from that, Colby is the guy. So if you guys want to talk. And by the way, this was definitely not intentional. We did not plan to have 2 people on our team with ing at the end of it. It just so happened to happen that way. So we're really excited that Colby joined the team. I am as well. Let's go ahead and look at the first slide. So the whole hypothesis of what Answers was built on is that we believe we're in what's called the answer economy. And this is not only just a trend that we have seen coming for a long time. If you guys are in the SEO world or if you're in the tech world, you've seen that Google SERPs are pushing more towards instant answers. Voice devices are all focused on like accelerating the quick delivery of answers to questions, right? We see this as marketers, as content people, as just consumers. So what we're trying to do at Frase is we're trying to say, okay, where do we believe the world is going? And where do we see these consumer preferences changing right now? And how do we act on that, right? So we know that the world has changed quite a bit, right? You've probably heard that a million times. One thing that has really shocked us, a McKinsey report came out. This is McKinsey, right? They're pretty serious. So they've noticed that 70 to 80% of consumers prefer either remote human interactions like we're doing right now through a Zoom or something like that, or digital self-service. And really, like, this started with Amazon. They created this kind of buy now, instant gratification culture that we've been seeing over the past 5-10 years. But I think the perfect storm happened with COVID, where we've all been stuck in our house, and now even people like the best way to describe it is my mom. Even my mom, who's never even had like a cell phone until she was in her 40s, is now using Amazon, is now shopping online. So we've crossed the chasm. Everybody wants to be able to do things immediately, right? As a result, there's also been an enormous boom in e-commerce sales. We've seen 10 years growth in the past 3 months. This is when McKinsey put this study out, so it's a little bit older. But this is recently in 2020, and they're saying, oh my goodness, all this e-commerce boom has done a few things. Number one, it's increased sales, but number two, it's increased competition drastically, right? So that puts a lot of strain on people who are competing for the same real estate as all of us are. As a result, my friend Patrick over here at ProfitWell has done some great studies on unit economics for businesses, et cetera. And a trend that has been going on over the past 5 years is that our cost to acquire a customer, basically all the costs that roll into how you drive new business, has increased 55% over the past 5 years. That's insane. Think about that. 5 years ago, it was 55% cheaper to get the same customer you're getting today, right? In the same time period, people are less willing to pay for features, for just things in general. So because we have so many options, it's really it's changed the market significantly. Then you've got Tesla, right? So people are wanting to buy online. It costs more to acquire them. They're less willing to pay. Then you've got Tesla over here selling, $100,000 cars without ever walking into a showroom. I actually have a really good friend who had never driven one of their cars before at all, and spent $100,000 or something like that on a brand new car and never test drove it or anything like that. So like, if you can get customers these days and you can provide a great experience, I think Tesla certainly does that, then you can win, right? They're willing to spend up to $50,000, most people, through end-to-end self-service. That's crazy. I'm 36 years old. When I was a kid, buying online was like kind of a pipe dream. It was really cool. And now we've gone from all the way there to people willing to buy a brand new car online, which is crazy. As a result of these trends, we've also noticed some things that aren't going well for most businesses. And that is that most people will actually abandon a purchase if they can't find a quick answer. And so you see all these technologies that have come out these days, and we're going to get a lot more into that actually. But this is alarming, right? Forrester is saying that if people can't find a quick answer to a question, they will abandon a purchase. So not only are you driving more expensive customers, but they won't buy unless you are catering to their demands, right? This 2021 Think with Google report just came out, like, I think 2 weeks ago, and this kind of sums up everything. The reason why we built Phrase Answers, right, is that ultimately what a shopper wants is help. I think about my own shopping experience, and I'm like, what does a salesperson do? They help me answer questions so that I can rationalize that purchase. They reduce the friction, right? A customer service person does the same thing. They help me figure out problems with my customer support issues, or they help me diagnose a problem with my product or my process, and they help me stick around as a customer. Ultimately, they're essentially just trying to help you be successful. But in a digital world, the only way you can do that is if you understand the intent of what people want for help, right? You can't wait until they submit a support case and then wait 48 hours to hear from you. The companies who are winning in the future are going to be the ones who understand the intent of what people are looking for, and they help solve that problem. So the key takeaways, Colby, there's 3 bullets here that are just crazy to think about if you're running a business. We know that customer acquisition cost is increasing worldwide across all channels, but the second bullet is really interesting. You have some really good perspectives on this, on what type of experiments brands are running. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think probably if you asked me maybe like a few years ago, it was chat, right? But now we're evolving so quick, where it's saying, okay, like how else is this? What other ways are people going out and finding answers? A really big one is voice powered search, and then how businesses can really leverage AI to become superhumans essentially. How they can essentially do more with less.
That's right. That's right. And the old school that prioritizing retention. We've talked about this for years in the growth world. But the end of the day, if you're not prioritizing retention, you're setting your business up for failure, because it's a lot harder to acquire a new customer than it is to keep one around, right? That's always been the case for years. But I think companies are now waking up. They're saying, "Oh my goodness, it's so expensive to acquire a customer. I'm insane not to prioritize retention to keep them around a bit," right? I think the most important bullet, if we're going to walk away from this, setting the table here, is that people are demanding speed and efficiency no matter what it is. So irrespective of you use Frase, irrespective of whatever it is business you're in, you need to nail speed and efficiency, because that's just how the world is working today. And so it's time for us to all think to ourselves, if this cost to acquire keeps going up, and we've got people who are less willing to pay because they've got more and more options, and my website is still using stuff that was cool 5-10 years ago that now people are kind of over, that's going to be a real problem, right? And speed and efficiency is the name of the game. So let's talk about why we built Frase Answer Assistants, and basically what problems they're trying to help growth teams solve. So if you look at most sites, I would say that it's pretty clear that a lot of the tech and things that we buy, or the technologies, the processes, all the new stuff that we buy, is essentially focused on people who are ready to buy right now. The 1% of your website visitors who are like, okay, I'm in contention to buy something from you. And that's kind of where the love, as you could say, kind of starts and ends, right? So if you look at most sites today, that 1% is just peppered. It's peppered with stuff all over the place, right? So the modern marketing organization, right, or growth organization, they'll have SEO content that is intended to draw people in from search engines, right? You might find an answer to a question indexed in Google that is different or has a different perspective on it than you would if you come in, you live chat with a sales rep, right? You've got chatbots that have these kind of hard-coded decision trees, and while they're good for speed and efficiency, they break the second you go out of that. So like, you come to a website, you ask a question. If I ask Colby a question, he would just answer the question. Hey, Colby, what's your favorite baseball team?
Boston Red Sox.
Right. So if you ask a chatbot that's on a B2B website, they might not know how to answer those questions. That's just a silly example. But the point is that most of our tech is basically designed for like one functional silo. And so as you add more of these tech and all these processes, it's necessary today to grow, right? You have to have SEO content. You have to have like all these different options, because there hasn't been a better example of this. And actually, let me go back to this. So out of all these texts that we see on the websites, we see live chatbots, and probably site search, I would say, are probably the most frequent that we see them out there. And so we did a little bit of research. We were like, why is this such a mess? Why is the experience today on websites such a mess? And it turns out of all the top technologies, site search is not even optimized or measured across most sites, which is kind of silly. If you look at this example from Yext's own website, is they've got Campbell's.com as their site search, and you search something like what's your best soup, and they'll hit you with what's the best ever meatloaf. This isn't to rag on any brands at all. This is just the state of what site search ends up being. And the reason for that is that engineering, for the most part, owns site search. So you as a marketer are kind of at the will of the person, whoever owns that tech. It's really hard to optimize site search. Like, I've been in global organizations where they've got site search and engineering owns it. So you as the marketer, you're doing your best to try to create content that's indexable, but you don't really optimize the experience a ton. Now, there are some better examples of this, but I would say as a large, as a whole, most companies actually aren't paying attention to site search from the minute after they install it. Ahrefs, my friends, really good friends with these guys, love these guys. So if you look at their site, I was on their pricing page, and I was, we're we're about to buy a Ahrefs plan. It's the tool that I buy every place I go. I think all of us can relate to that. I love Tim and the whole team and everything they're doing. But if I had a question like, hey, which pricing plan is right for me, or like, do I need all these extra rows of data that I get from these link reports? 5 minutes just isn't the amount of time I'm willing to stay on a website, right? 46% of live chats expect a response in less than 5 seconds. So, if 1 out of every 10 major customer comes to your website and is like, I'm not waiting 5 minutes, are you crazy? That just doesn't work for most brands today. Same thing with chatbots. SEMrush, my boys, they were based in Boston, some of the folks, great people. So we're on the website and I go and check out their intercom chatbot and I'm like, hey, how does SEMrush compare to Ahrefs? And we get hit with all these random responses that have absolutely nothing to do with my question. Now, this isn't a knack on SEMrush at all. Like they have a very strong marketing team. It's just the reality of how kind of most chatbot experiences are built today. If you guys go around to different sites and check it out. Yep, questionable. So let's go ahead and check out the key takeaways today. Colby, you want to wrap this one up a bit, to talk a little bit more about these different things and what your perspective is on this?
Yeah, I think what we're trying to show you is just like there are different tools, teams, and tactics that kind of manage how somebody would get an answer today, and it just results in a poor customer experience, right? So if today's the day of like, how can we solve for customer experience? Now we have to make sure that these core tactics with site search, live chat, chatbots, they are effective. And really with site search, it's either owned by engineering or sometimes it's forgotten and you can't really glean any insight from site search. Similarly with live chat, it requires humans to be there to answer the chat. Generally, it takes longer than 5 minutes. And obviously they can only operate during business hours. And with chatbots, really the issue there is that you have to envision or use or create behind the scenes, like all the different rules and all the different reasons why somebody could come to your website and all the different questions that they could possibly have. And that's like very complex, very complicated. And really like, because this is really when somebody asks us a question, that's really intent data that you can get from all of these different channels. But right now it's disconnected, right? It means we miss out on opportunities to really figure out, okay, like what do our buyers, what do our visitors care about when they're on our website?
100%. I mean, like I've worked at places that have had chat on their site, and I've never once seen any like reasonable, valuable data that has come out of those installs. It's a great utility, but again, live chat, I'm not going to wait for somebody to pick it up. Chatbots, like you gotta hire somebody full time to manage those things, and it worked for the time. I think it was good for the time being. Site search, like probably the most useful out of all of these, because it just easily gets you from point A to point B. But again, it's really difficult. Like we've talked to how many SEOs over the past like 6 months or so, talking on Frase content, and we're like, hey, who owns the data for site search? And they're like, well, I'm not sure actually. Good question. And so, when I was at HubSpot, we managed the help, I think it's help or the help center. And we used that site search data, but it came in Excel. It was like, it wasn't the way that you normally would like to run an optimization of such a critical part of your website experience. And first party data, I mean, if you could make more use out of all the data across these different touch points, I mean, that's just enormously valuable, right? So anyways, yeah, that's some good points you made right there. All right, so Frase Answer Assistants, how do they work and why you should be pretty pumped up? We're really excited about this. So the way that Frase was basically built, Frase Answers, is that we wanted to unify every important aspect of the customer journey. So oftentimes those tools we just talked about, live chat and chatbots, they have sort of a single use case. If you go to a help center, you'll get like a Zendesk type of experience where you can get a chatbot, a site search, but if you ask them questions like how to buy something, they're not set up for that, right? The same goes for the store end of things on the front end of the customer experience. Basically, if you're on a e-commerce site and you're on Amazon or something like that, you're looking up something and you're like, oh, how do I fix XYZ? Like, it's not set up that way. Most websites are not set up that way. So essentially what we did was we said, all right, if we could take a different approach to all these things, what we would do is we would kind of treat it like Google, we would crawl all this content, and then our AI would analyze all the text, all of the passages of text in blocks, just like passage-based ranking does. And we said, okay, if we could process that, turn it into really interesting insights, how do we then make use of that data? So phrase content now helps you answer questions in search engines, right? But then we said, all right, if we could process this information and make it really useful, couldn't we just deliver those insights across site search, across chat, and anywhere through an API? So a good example is Alexa or Siri. You could deliver an answer to a help question for your help center across Alexa or Siri. But right now, people just don't have the technology to do all this, and none of them are built together. So basically what Phrase Answers does, it takes all of the information that you have across your different sites, creates one intelligent AI database, and then it helps you deliver answers to questions, whether it's sales, service, FAQs, like about the company, anything. It could all be answered into one intelligent database. So essentially how it works is it extracts the information. Again, we make a copy of the information. We process the information through AI. And then there's what's called the front end. Those are called answer assistants or answers. And Phrase Answers is the platform. And then we have what's called assistants. Those are the front end ways you can engage your audience, right? So that's essentially how it works from a technical perspective. So any content that can be crawled by Phrase can be used to answer questions across all the different assistants or one assistant you build. So on the bottom end, this is what it looks like. So what happens is most people crawl stuff like their help center, their website content, because that has all their sales and marketing questions and topics and things like that. So once you crawl that information, Phrase processes it into the AI layer and then uses it to answer questions and automate a lot of the different aspects of customer experience. And then we have what's called custom responses. Now, most websites can answer between 50 to 60% of questions from their website content. If y'all are creating a lot of great content because you're SEOs, you're working at content heavy brands, then you might have even higher than that right out of the gate. But ultimately, just like if you hired a brand new employee, nobody can answer every question automatically, right? It's not magic, although it's very close. So custom responses are basically a brand new database where you're automatically answering stuff with your website content, and then there's gaps. So Phrase will basically automatically show you where your gaps are, and then you can answer those questions with custom responses, and that fills all the gaps of all the questions that the AI can't answer with your website content. So here's an example. If you look at the back end of Phrase's own Phrase Answers, somebody came to our help center. They asked a question about how to get access to our API. Our bot wasn't sure how to answer the question, so it tried its best to answer it from website content, right? So it's saying, I'm not sure, I think this is the answer. So what I do on a daily basis, or like probably like 5 or 10 hours per week, is I go in and I go, okay, I'm gonna train this just like I would an actual employee. If somebody asked a brand new employee of ours, how do I get access to the API? And they didn't know how to answer that question, but they were very good at answering a lot of other stuff. I'd say, okay, here's how I'm going to actually teach you how to do that. I'm going to say, when somebody asks you for get access to the API, I'm going to show you what the actual answer is. So on the left-hand side, it's saying, what's the question? On the right-hand side, we're saying, when somebody asks about the API, this general inquiry, here's the answer. So you can see the answer for variance right here on the bottom. Now, when I submit that for training, Phrase's AI goes, okay, when somebody asks questions related to the API, this looks like it's probably the right answer. So at first, it makes one connection, and then ultimately somebody might ask something like, how does the API work? In that case, we'll show you that question again, and we'll say, are you sure this is the right way we should be mapping it to this question? Because sometimes the intent is different. So over time, the AI gets totally locked in on all these different topics, all these different questions. So eventually you start at 50, 60%, then you go up to 70, then you go up to 80, then you go up to 90. All of a sudden, you've got completely automated self-service, and this allows you to do so much more stuff with your time. It's amazing. So the flywheel, I like to talk about flywheels a lot, works like this. On step one, you install Phrase on your site. It's just a simple line of JavaScript to get the first install, and it'll start getting questions from your audience. So people will ask things that it's either able to answer or isn't able to answer, and it'll answer the questions that it can. And most of those initial questions are from those crawls, from that initial crawl. Then we'll surface it up to you. We'll say, hey, look, there's 20 or 30 questions here that couldn't be answered. So how would you like us to address that moving forward? Like, what's the right approach there? You answer those questions. Every single time you do this loop, your self-service rate goes up. So a good question would be like, hey, Colby, how does the enterprise pricing work? And while we might or might not have an answer to that question on site, I can train the AI to answer it just like he would if he was on the call with any one of you guys. It's really amazing. It really is. Now, there's a lot of technologies out there, like AI bots and stuff like that. And what they do is they train a general model. They'll create just a general persona. This one is completely custom to your brand. So this is your data. It's first party data that you get from your audience. The model is completely custom to you and your brand. So it's really powerful because a lot of these other stuff talk about like, hey, we're AI, or like, hey, this is like hands off. And it's like, not really, because you're training the AI model for everybody, and then you're selling it to each people like it's their own. This thing starts from your data and it goes with your data the whole time. It's pretty fascinating. So here's a good example. If you go in the back of Frase Analytics, our AI will cluster all the questions related to specific topics. So obviously, Frase is the top topic that people ask questions about. So in these, on the right-hand panel here, related to Frase, there's hundreds of questions that people have been asking through our site search, through our chat bots, et cetera. And AI is able to answer some of them. AI is not able to answer some of them. So every morning on like a Friday morning, I go in, I go, okay, what are the questions that weren't able to be answered this time? I'll map it to specific answers and do some sort of general cleaning. And it's super easy. You literally just go in there and answer those questions, and that's it. And then it just learns and gets better every single day. And I think this is really exciting for not just the automation, which is already amazing and exciting, but it also, if you think about it, like because site search and live chat and traditional chatbots are all about just touching on who's ready to buy, the biggest problem for people today is that it's easy to drive top of funnel traffic, or it's easier to drive stuff that is lower intent. But what happens is somebody gets on your site, they read the article, they go away, they go back to Google, they search the next thing, they go in the next article. So you don't actually control your traffic all that well unless you're able to generate these like engaging experiences that get somebody from learning to considering to buying. And that's the synthesis of what we're trying to do with Phrase Answers. So a good example, Colby, you want to talk through this one? This is really cool. We have a FlorenceByMills.com. They're a huge e-commerce brand. Mills has what, 40 million Instagram followers, Colby?
Yeah, that's right. And this is a cosmetics brand that Millie Bobby Brown as the founder of, I guess you could say, and really like their big challenge is like they really can't, live chat really isn't an option for them because they get so much traffic to their website. They would just be inundated with live chat. And so what they did though is they used Phrase Answers. We crawled their entire website so that anytime somebody asks a question like, are your products safe for my skin type, right? We know how to answer that person's question. So essentially what it can do is it can take somebody who might have just had like initial interest because this is Millie Bobby Brown's company. It allows them to like proactively prompt them to ask a question. Once we start to answer them, we can essentially build more trust and get them closer to making a purchasing decision or a conversion.
Yep. Yeah, and this is cool because this answer actually did not come from their content. So what was happening was they were able to see, oh, actually people are asking this question quite often. We should train the AI so that when anybody comes back again, we can answer this question automatically. So think about like from the SEOs in the room and the content people, you do all these top of funnel posts to get people to your website and then they read it and go away. Well, what about those middling questions? Like, you know what I mean? They see these ideas for gifts and it's like, well, would I rather have them go back to Google and search and maybe they find us? Probably not. There's so much competition right now for beauty products and these types of businesses in e-commerce. So you have a big opportunity here to drive more traffic deeper in your funnel. Another example from Florence is they have, because they're an e-commerce company, they have phenomenal schema and all sort of structured data. So when somebody comes back to your site, let's say that they bought this skincare besties set, right? Like it's a pretty popular product for them. When you search for products, because it uses all the markup, all the product markup is already pre-configured. When Frase crawls your website and looks at your product, it's like, oh, this is already structured. I know the name of the product. I know the price. I know the description. Here's the image. All this stuff, literally, you didn't do anything. It crawls it, automatically makes this stuff in the back end. So you can help people find these beautiful products, like experiences, right within the chat interface. It's pretty wild. And oftentimes question we get is a lot of sites are like, cool, you guys can automate this stuff, but ultimately, like, it can't automate everything, even though we do our best attempt to actually automate as much as possible. But sometimes you just need to talk to a person, right? So we've created this thing called a live chat handoff, and our friends over at Life Fuel, awesome people. They've got the really cool products for eating healthier and plant-based and stuff like that. So sometimes people will say like, hey, something is wrong and they need to talk to a person. So we call this the live chat handoff. Essentially what you can do is if you offer the option to talk to a live chat person, you can click one button, boom, and they'll pull up another live chat. So you guys can, instead of paying for all these expensive chat bots, you can literally go get a free live chat from any one of these vendors, click a button, boom, and then you can have that instead of spending a bunch of money on chat bots. So let's talk about how to get max value from answer assistants, because there's a lot. We talked about a lot of stuff, but I want to show you how to these are just a few ideas of how you could actually get an amazing experience from Phrase Answers. So the big news, you guys are probably wondering, and a lot of people have been asking about this in the Facebook group, is that we have basically every piece of the on-page puzzle covered now. So we used to just do chat. That's, well, most of you are probably pretty familiar. If you've gone through the answers tab, you're like, oh, cool, just another chat bot, but it's not, right? So what we've done is we've said, all right, how do we cover every part of the most important aspects of on-page experience? And one of those is chat, one of them is site search, and one of them is called calls to action, where you can put them anywhere on your site. And the whole goal here is we want to have one central database for everything your customer asks about across site search, across chat, et cetera. And then that goes right into the AI. And that's great, right? But even better is the idea of having calls to action that helps you drive more engagement from chat and site search. So you're probably saying, I have no idea what Bill's talking about. Let me show you what I mean. So in this case, you can go ahead and Phrase Answers has what's called site search. It's literally in the account right now. You can go there and set this up on your own site. You type in a question, and you can either go search to chat, where you type in a search and start a chat. And this is perfect for those of you who already have site search and you're like, I do not want to deal with taking site search out of my website. Like, that would be a nightmare. I hear you. So you can actually just open Phrase as a chat on top of your existing site search. It's just an easy input for you to call up upon a click event or something like that. So that's one option. If you guys are like, oh God, I don't want to deal with getting site search out of my site, but I do want to use this, then you can go ahead and do that right now, and it'll just open up automatically. Here's the traditional site search. This is brand new. We just released this recently. So as soon as you crawl your website and you install this on your site, you can have site search right on your site. And again, all this information goes into that database. You guys are probably pretty familiar with site search, so I don't need to go too deep into this a bit. But again, awesome, super excited about this. And this helps you get more value from your SEO content. In custom journey, so we talked about calls to action. So one thing we realized at Phrase was that if we have just a hovering chatbot, we realized that there's sort of a level of ad blindness to chatbots nowadays, because a lot of sites have them, right? So I'm a big student of the conversion optimization game, and there's basically two approaches to CRO. You can do what's called a Z framework or an F framework. And so what that basically shows is that most websites are set up in a certain way, not by accident. The eyes that people, as they glaze over a website, almost always go in what's called a Z pattern. So they go across the top, across the middle, and across the bottom, or they go up the left-hand side in an F pattern. So they go up the left-hand side, they go across the top, through the middle, and then down the left-hand side. And I challenge you right now, go look at any website from Shopify, all HubSpot, all these great brands. They're all set up to be optimized for a Z or an F pattern. So we're basically showing you that we've optimized Frase to literally hit on every important area of your on-page experience to drive as much engagement as humanly possible. So we said, all right, well, how do we help people drive more conversations? We said, all right, why don't we make it easy for people to click? So that was easy. We just said, let's give people the tools to go ahead and click a button, open the chat, and then start a conversation. So you can use all sorts of conversations, CTAs. You can use anchor text. Now that's like kind of V1. That's cool, right? You can click a button, open the chat bot, awesome. But even cooler is these new things that I just teased out on Twitter right before we jumped on here. So we have custom journeys that not only do they open the experience, but you can do pre-configured topic optimization. So in this case, there's a link on our site called Extractive Summarization. This is our CEO, Tommy, and CTO, Frankie, who are way smarter than I am. I have no idea what any of that means. But again, this is all about the ability to basically click something and then boom, in the chatbot on the right-hand side, it says, what is extractive summarization? That was actually driven by the click event. So you can actually pre-configure a question, a topic, or anything from a click event. So think about all the ways you can use this. This can go in calls to action. It can go from anchor links. It can go from images. It can go from ad placements. Like there's no limit to what you can do. And we actually will share the way to do this. You just wrap it in a tag or a div, and we can go ahead and give you guys the ability to do this and show you how to actually do it. It's very easy. I could do it, and I am not the most technical marketer of all time. So we're really excited about this. So think about all the different ways you could use this. You can click one thing and all of a sudden get an answer to something automatically. So there's so many different ways. If you guys have some really cool ideas on how you could potentially use this for your own site, drop a comment in the chat. We would love to hear about some ways you're thinking about you could use this. Okay, so we talked a lot. Well, I talked a lot, right, Colby? I tend to do that sometimes. Talk a lot.
It's very informative, at least for me. So thank you, Ben.
Awesome. So let's talk about what we have planned. That's not all, folks. We have a lot going on in 2021. So, Colby, shall you? Do you want to walk people through the exciting stuff we have coming up?
Yeah. So very soon we're going to have Frase Site Search launched. From there, we're going to give you the ability to actually have somebody be able to create a help desk ticket from within the chat without having to take them to like a separate page. Similarly, too, we're actually going to give people the ability to look up their Shopify order status, as well as custom event tracking as well. And that's going to get us closer to helping you understand things like, okay, what are the questions or topics or intents that people are asking before they purchase? I know, Bill, you're excited about that one too.
Yeah, I got to tell you, if I had to pick one of the four, I'm not going to bias this. I'm really excited to hear what people have. By the way, we're going to drop a little, I think it's called a poll at the end of the Zoom. As soon as the webinar is over, there will be a poll. You can pick from these four and vote on which one you believe is the one you want us to see built or you're most excited about. And I promise you, if we get a lot of good feedback, we will actually prioritize the one that you guys are most excited about. The thing I'm personally most excited about is probably the custom event tracking. I think like as a marketer, we're always thinking about how do you tie revenue and purchases to events and things that happen across your site. What about you, Colby? Which one are you most excited about?
I'm super excited about site search. I think that's good. Like that is from the conversations I'm having. It's like very underutilized today. It's typically like it's almost like a black box where people don't know what people are searching for. You know what your visitors are searching for, and just another data point for you to understand. Like, okay, what are my buyers? What are they interested in?
For sure.
That is unique to you as well. That is like a competitive advantage to having that type of information.
Yeah, and like just so for everybody's listening here, if you guys are like, oh, cool, site search. So we had just chat on our site, and then we dropped on site search, and our engagement across both went from 1% to 3%. So the nice part about site search with Frase is that you own the entire experience. So like marketers, for the most part, don't own site search. It's mostly engineering or product that owns it. This is a loop that you can continually build on. And like from a marketer standpoint, nothing is better than to be able to just go and create like optimize, use your creativity, etc. So I'm really excited about it. I also think that help desk tickets will be sweet because the hypothesis behind Phrase Answers is that we'll automate answers to questions. But right now, if you have a question that can't be answered by content, you have to kind of go through like a different process. So we were like, all right, how do we make it easy if somebody just needs to just submit a ticket, right? Very, very simple thing. The other thing too is order status. So this is huge. Like for a lot of e-commerce companies use Phrase Answers right now. And most of the time, like I would say 30 or 40% of the time, I've seen some of the analytics, repeatable questions are the kiss of death to customer service. So if you could answer things like, where's my order, which is a big chunk of a lot of these repeatable questions, you can literally get to like 80, 90% automated from all the stuff, which is game changing. I mean, Shopify, you know, e-commerce companies are just paying through the nose right now with ads and everything else. And it's like, hey, this is huge stuff. This is huge stuff. All right, so let's talk about getting started with answer assistance, and then we will, Colby and I have a little bit of time towards the end to answer questions in the Q&A and in the chat, and then we will go ahead and we'll make sure that we send a recording to everybody so you can take a look at this. And if you have any other questions, feel free to hit us up. My email is bill@phrase.io. Colby is colby@phrase.io. We're always available to help you guys. So, all right, so steps. Colby, you want to walk them through how they can get started with Phrase Answer Assistance? It's very, very easy.
Sure. So the first place to look would be this getting started guide that we have. We'll make sure that you all have access to it. And really, it's a matter of just installing some JavaScript on your website and then kicking off a crawl. And I saw some questions around, oh, can you pick and choose the websites, or the parts of your website that you would want to crawl? You absolutely can do that. And essentially what that does is it allows us to create that database of like questions and answers. From there, you'll create your assistant. And really for that, all you would do is just set up like the branding, the look and feel, the logo, how you want the assistant to greet visitors when they come in. And also too, we want to create like a fallback experience, you know, in cases where we don't, you know, we're not confident in the answer. What do we want that experience to be? Maybe you want to hand off to live chat, to have them fill out a form for somebody to reach back out, somebody in your team to reach back out to them. And then the final piece is like really just like the ongoing support here, where you're going to create your data set, and it's typically a list of like the most common top 10 to 20 questions that you know that you'd actually have that you typically would get. And you can surface that from your sales team or surface that from your customer support team as well. And that's going to be the initial like data set of like custom responses that you want your assistant to answer. And from on an ongoing basis, like Bill was saying, you'll go in periodically, you'll look at the questions that are coming in and how the assistant's answering them, and then you're going to be able to train the assistant so it gets smarter and smarter over time.
There you go. All right. So thank you, Colby, for the awesome breakdown. So a lot of you guys already have access to many of these features. Obviously, there's some stuff that we have planned that will probably be on our enterprise plans moving forward, because some of that stuff is a better fit for folks who are doing a lot more volume. So if you are interested, I will drop the link on the screen so that you guys can book a demo with Colby. Colby is really your person for demos of Phrase Answers. A lot of this stuff is it really, if you have a high traffic website, I would highly recommend booking a demo with Colby, or anybody who's interested in answers, book it, because he's an expert at setting up AI and experiences on websites. And we're just really excited. So if you're seeing this and you're really pumped about this, let us know. Book it sometime with Colby. You can either go to phrase.io/demo and then just request a demo and select Phrase Answers as your interest of topic, or you can just fill out this form. I'm going to drop the link in the comments in a few minutes. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to stay on the line for a bit. We're going to turn off the screen. We're going to answer questions in the chat. And thank you everybody so much for joining. We are so pumped because we feel like this is really a huge step forward in what Phrase is as a brand and how it's helping, you know, marketers and digital marketers and growth marketers and SEOs and everything. The whole point here is we don't want to just solve for traffic. We want to solve for the entire experience, from top of funnel to being a customer to getting help from your service team. because at the end of the day, if we're just helping you get traffic, we're missing out on a lot of value we can help you guys out with. So we're really excited about this. Let us know if you have any feedback. If you're a Frase user and you're using answers, hit us up. We would love to hear from you. All right, everybody, thank you so much for your time today. Have an awesome afternoon. We can't wait to hear what you have to say. Take care.